Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. Today I am reviewing liquid glue for paper crafting specifically, not for other crafts. There is no way I can review every glue out there on the market, so I am reviewing these 5 glues with a little bit of information about a 6th glue, and I'll talk a little bit more about why I have that one in there. Now, this all started because I was using this Ranger liquid glue, or if we back up even a step further, because I was using Tombow mono liquid glue, and that's the one that's missing from this review. And I switched away from that one because it was stringy, and I switched over to this Ranger product, but I was having my own troubles with that one. So that led me to this quest of trying to find a glue that's going to work for me. And as long as I'm on this quest, I figured I might as well film a video showing a whole bunch of tests with this glue to help you if you're having the same struggle that I'm having. So let's go ahead and take a look at each of these glues. We'll talk about its price, its qualities, and its quirks before we dive into all the testing that I did with these. First up is the Art Glitter Glue, and the name is a little unfortunate because it doesn't really have anything to do with glitter besides the fact that you could glue glitter, so don't let the name stump you. This is the glue that I'm currently using, and I do have an add-on fine tip that I use with it. I keep a little square of foam taped to the side of the bottle that I can push that stopper push pin into so I don't lose track of the push pin. I did think that push pin mechanism would bug me, but it's turned out to be okay. At any rate, this glue comes in 2 different sizes. The 4-ounce bottle comes in at $2 per ounce, while the 2-ounce bottle comes in at $2.45 per ounce. This glue is very wet. I find it fairly easy to control, especially with the fine tip on there, and it requires a light to medium pressure to squeeze it. And I say that because if you have any hand issues like arthritis or whatnot, it's good to know that about a glue bottle before you buy it to try it. One last thing that I should say about this glue is that it comes in 2 versions, a clear drying version and a white drying version. For me, it's important to have clear drying, so if that's important to you, make sure you get the correct kind. And I will have links to where I buy all of these products down below. I don't have any association with the shop that carries these, I just like shopping there. Next up is the Ranger product, and this one is called Multi-Medium Matte, and it is actually a multi-purpose product that can be used as a glue, and that's how I was using it. I did have some challenges with this one, like I mentioned, the thickness being one of the challenge. I tried to overcome that with adding these various tips on it, but those tips had their own challenges. Some of them clogged, a lot of them broke, some of them were hard to align and close, and so I did not like any of the add-on tips to this product, and I didn't like the tube without an add-on tip. So in addition to those reasons, this glue also has some other challenges which we'll cover when I get to the testing, and that is why I've moved on to other glues. But before we go, this one is $5.38 per ounce. The one I'd like to talk about next is this Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive, and that one comes in at $2.75 per ounce. This one I found had really good control. It didn't take hardly any pressure to squeeze the bottle. Some of the quirks of this one is it did have some air bubbles in it, and I did find that I would get a little bit of broken lines, so that squeeze was a little inconsistent. The 4th one here that I want to talk about is the Gina K Connect Glue, and this one was the most expensive of the bunch, coming in at $11.90 per ounce. Now, it's not sold in that size, it's sold in a 1/2-ounce bottle for $5.95, but I was a little surprised when I did the math at how much per ounce more this one cost than the other glues. So the qualities of this one were that it had a medium to firm squeeze required to get the glue out. I could get some fine lines with some effort, and it did have a few air bubbles in it. And I will talk just a bit about that in a moment after we cover the next glue. The fifth glue I am putting through this test comes from scrapbook.com, and it is called their Smart Glue. Now this glue is different because it is a two-way glue, and what that means is you can use it wet as a liquid adhesive, or you can let it dry and it will remain tacky, and then you can use it as an adhesive that way. Now I do use this glue as an adhesive for foiling once it is in that tacky state, but honestly that is the only time I would use it because I am a messy gluer, and any squeezed out blurbs around edges of items will remain tacky, and I found that to be a problem. I did find this one was hard to control. It would often splurt out as I was trying to squeeze it, leading to too much glue, and you'll see that at a couple points throughout this video. When you open the lid, because of that tacky quality it has when it's dry, there's often a stringiness to it when you pull it out, and you have to pull that string off the tip of the nozzle before you can use it. But this one was very easy to squeeze. In fact, so easy that you could get too much. And it was a nice strong glue. And before I forget, that one is sold in two separate sizes. There's the 12 ml bottle, which is called their mini, which turns out to be about a little less than half an ounce. And that one came in at $4.85 per ounce. The other size they have is the 40 ml bottle, which is their regular size, and that converts to about 1.35 ounces. So that one comes out to $3.69 an ounce. And of course, this is only available at scrapbook.com. All of the other glues that I've mentioned are available on one of my favorite websites that I use for my adhesives, which is called scrapbookpal.com. And like I said, I don't have any monetary affiliation with them. I just like shopping there. A quick note about the Tombow Mono Aqua Glue, and there are different Tombow glues, so that is specifically the one that I was using. And I had started this video with intending to show this one as well, but I've misplaced it somehow. So I just wanted to give you a couple of quick notes. This one was $1.77 per ounce, so this one was actually the least expensive of the bunch. It did have some stringy qualities to it, but it worked just fine. I found it was the clearest drying of the entire bunch, as well as the flattest drying of the entire bunch. So if those are qualities you're looking for in a glue, this one might be the right one for you. I did have a couple of those glues that had air bubbles in them that would cause the glue to sputter as I was squeezing it, and that's irritating since it splashes little drips of glue places. But generally an easy way to solve that is to keep your glue upside down in some container, and there are specially made glue stands for keeping them upside down. But I just wanted to mention that because it was one of my pet peeves, and I know it's solvable, but it's a little irritating nonetheless. The duration of the video, I'm going to try to keep everything in the order that I have on this demonstration card. Let's go ahead and talk about the next quality of glue, which is important to me, and that's how clear it dries. Now, I want something that dries nice and clear because, like I said, I can tend to be a messy gluer. So I did a test on both black paper and white paper, and I also did kind of a strength test using these sequins to get started. All of these glues are going to turn out to be just fine for holding these sequins. They were all strong enough. Really, the difference here between the glues is how clear they dry and how thick they dry, because a lot of them dried with quite a bit of texture. So all of these actually had a domed effect to them when they dried, and so if you don't want that to cause lumps with your projects, you're going to need to use very thin amounts. The next test that I put these glues through was the squeezability, control, and fine line test. Now, I did some of that when I showed that first sample off, but I wanted to do it live on camera so you could kind of see it. Now, I start with art glitter glue with the original tip on it, and then here's what it looks like with the fine tip, and I really do like that fine tip. The fine tip and the push pin on there will collect a little bit of wet glue, which will dry and seal off that fine tip, but it never actually clogs. I just have to pop off that little dome of dried glue and then it's good to go again. Next up is the Ranger one, and I did it first with the original tip, and then here I am with the fine tip, and this one becomes a huge hassle and a pain to squeeze, so I would never use that one with the fine tip on there. And then there's the scrapbook.com glue, and you saw me just blurp out a big blob at first, and then I am gluing off to the side a piece of paper to kind of do strength tests for later. and it blurped out so much glue that I had to redo that one. So that one is hard to control. The Nuvo glue is actually going to be a surprise champ in this list at the end of the day. I found it pretty easy to squeeze and pretty easy to control, and so I was pleased with that one. And then the Gina K glue was a little harder to control. I couldn't get the fine lines that I did with the other glues. Let's go ahead and talk about drying times. And in these trials, I'm doing several different things. The first trial here is kind of the quick grip trial, which is how long it takes for that glue to wiggle around before it stays put, so that you have some time to move it, but that it won't tear if you're trying to move it around. And most all of them did just fine. It gave you a little bit of time to move it around, but then it would hold so that you could move on with the rest of your project without bumping it and sliding it around. The exception to that was the Ranger adhesive, which kept moving for quite a long time. So if you need that quality of being able to really move things around for a long time, you can go with the Ranger. But if you need to get things down and move on, then the Ranger glue is probably not for you. Now the other tests I'm doing here are, I'm going to start in 5-minute intervals to see how long things dry. Will the paper tear after 5 minutes, meaning the glue has set well enough to keep it in place? Now the middle section there is a non-porous to non-porous surface, and the section on the right is the non-porous surface to paper. And with the time trial of the paper to paper, the only one that could still be removed cleanly was the Ranger glue. So again, if you need that quality, that's the glue for you. The middle porous to porous surface, the only one that had enough grip to kind of stay in place and not get bumped around as you keep working on a project, was the Nuvo. And so if you need something that's going to be quick drying for those types of items, that's the one that you're going to want to use. And in terms of the sequins, almost all of them were set after 5 minutes. So I set my timer for another 5 minutes for a total of 10 minutes to see what things would look like. After 10 minutes, here's what we had. The art glitter glue was set enough to move on, but the other ones were still a little wiggly, with the most wiggly being the Ranger and the scrapbook.com glue. Next up was the strength test that I did with those white pieces of pattern paper. Those have had at least half an hour to dry, and I thought the smart glue might fail this test because it does have that sticky quality to it, but I was totally wrong. And in fact, I went ahead and created a piece to test if you're using it in the tacky mode, how strong it would be. All of these glues, after sitting for half an hour, were perfectly strong glues, both for that sequin test that I did and for the paper test. So they're all going to work fine for that. Coming back to these embellishments after 15 minutes, I still had some of them not set. We had that Ranger one that still wasn't set, and the scrapbook.com one still wasn't completely set. And after 20 minutes, the Ranger one still wasn't set, and the scrapbook.com one was getting there. And when I checked back in on that scrapbook.com two-way glue, and I had let it dry to a tacky state and then adhered the paper together, it was almost as strong as using it as a liquid glue, so it's going to work either way. Peeking back in on those non-porous to non-porous embellishment glues after 25 minutes, most everything had set. I'm going to let these sit for 24 hours to see what they look like at that point and to see how much of this cloudiness from the glue will clear up. And 24 hours later, everything looks just fine. Now, there is some spread out glue from me wiggling them during the tests, but if you had kept your glue to just the dot that you need under the adhesive, all of these glues will work for you if you let them at least sit overnight. And like I mentioned earlier, some of them will set up even faster than that. Alright, that is the last test I put these things through. That is probably more information on liquid glue than you ever wanted to know, but hopefully it helped you make a decision for what is right for you. So out of these tests, my favorites were the Nuvo and the Art Glitter for their controllability, their clear drying ability, and their fast, tacky grip, yet having enough time for wiggle room, and their price. So those were my favorites. I hope this whole comparison gives you a good idea of what to expect from these glues, and perhaps you can find something that's going to work for your projects. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of this video. If you got good information out of this, I would appreciate a thumbs up because that really does help my channel. I am coming back tomorrow. We're going to be talking about using ink pads in multiple ways for your paper crafting projects. So I hope you will join me then.